All right, so today we're going to look at this and I'm going to cook today. So we have certain issues at the house, and those certain issues are, let's actually gotta move this here so you can see me for a moment. This recording mechanism is not quite the same way I want. So to begin with, we're going to start with, I'm going to make a sausage crust and cauliflower crust pizzas. I am doing this because Gracie doesn't like the cauliflower crust pizza, and I like pizza every now and then, and this is one way to stay the cauliflower. I'm not making my own cauliflower crust today, so I'm going to use the cauliflower crust. And when we look at this, it's interesting. It says it's delicious and dairy free, and I'm going to use it for pizza. So there is going to be dairy on this, so it will no longer be dairy free. But when you look at these things and you take a peek at them, there's dietary fiber in this. So there is fiber in the pizza. A third of the crust is 1 gram of fiber. So if you were to eat this, there's 3 grams of fiber in it. No trans fats. There are no trans fats, no artificial stuff. They actually use how many ingredients? There's 2 per pack, and I think there's only like 3 or 4 ingredients in this. And I am not seeing what it says. I will say that there's quite the interesting story behind this company, and they've been out for 5 or 6 years now. So they have one, it's dairy and gluten free. There's 2 crusts, and I am not seeing, there they are, the ingredients. Cauliflower. I don't like, I've got to get along with, sometimes you just do the best you can. The brown rice flour, the rice flour, there's cornstarch in here. And so when we look at this, is this ideal? No, but in a pinch it'll do. So the cauliflower crust is something that I do use. The other thing is Gracie doesn't like the cauliflower crust. And since she doesn't like the cauliflower crust, we're going to turn around and make a sausage crust. So I actually have my pork bratwurst that I'm going to use as the base for the sausage crust. And that is from P&Y Farms. And Gracie is lactose intolerant, so she's not going to get the cheese. Jessica is nightshade intolerant, so she's not going to get the tomato sauce. And I'm going to make my own tomato sauce. My sister canned these tomatoes, and we're going to show you how to just easily start to do this. I'm going to make a white sauce. I have no idea how long this is going to take, but I will tell you, for the white sauce, you need 2 tablespoons of butter. You need 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Let me look at the recipe again. 3 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of cream cheese, dried onions, Italian seasonings, and some parm. So, to begin with, because the sausage crust takes longer, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to start with the sausage crust first, and then after I do the sausage crust, we'll start doing the white sauce. I'll turn this so you guys can see it. And I have to be careful with meats because the meats do they start to throw off my lipids a little bit. So when I used to eat these things all the time, my LDLP size and shape and content started to go awry. So it does matter. And I'm going to take the casings off of here. So to make a sausage crust, it's super simple. I say that, and then I have a hard time peeling off the casing. There we are. Now I'm under it. So To make a sausage crust, pretty simple. You can go buy sausage anywhere. If you go to PNY Farm, I actually am using the pork bratwurst because that's what I happen to have, and I didn't want to go buy any more sausage. So we'll go right here, peel off this. If you're cooking at home, we're doing this all in real time, so it takes you about the same amount of time once you have the ingredients. And I don't know if anybody wants me to post, I guess I should probably, when I record this and put this on YouTube, I will post the recipe. But once again, getting the casing off of the sausage, and this is locally owned grazed sausage from PNY Farm. We're very lucky to have them in this area. To be honest with you, I don't know if they ship or not. I would imagine they would. But I have a little over a pound of sausage, but you want about a pound of sausage. And with that sausage, we're going to drop it all in here. Now there's a bunch of different things you can do to this right now. However you want to season it, you can season it. Hi Kathleen. So however you want to season this, season it. I'm going to add a little garlic to the actual base here because garlic is a wonderful thing. If you've never used these things, this is a garlic, well, it'll do herbs and it just kind of shreds them. So I'm going to use the peeler here. I'll do this. And what you will see is this. Oh, there were 2 cloves of garlic in there. This will actually peel my garlic. I just put it in the silicone sleeve, go back and forth, and voila. The garlic is peeled. I'm going to cut the very ends off of these. Now, one of the tricks to keeping this easy to clean, I got this one at the VV Wine Festival, and then some of these specialty shops that do, I just put a little cold water on that. Some of these specialty shops around have these garlic peeler, mincer little things because it's just so easy. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do this. But I just take this, and you don't need one of these things. You can just dice it very well. But you see, I just take that and I just rub it across there, and those little teeth mash the garlic. Yeah, I almost ate your pizza bowl there, Tina. I was like, I don't remember leaving this. I was like, oh, Gracie must have got something. I'm going to see what the leftovers are. So, 2 cloves of garlic. Let's back that up. And then we drop this down like this. And like I said, I'm making this for dinner tonight. So when we go home, I don't like to eat real late. And the more I can have stuff prepped, the better off I'll be. So the garlic's in there. Now I am looking for the egg that I just had. Where did it go? There it is. So 1 farm fresh egg. Drop that in there. And then about a cup of parm. Now, when you're doing parm, as I said in the previous video, you want to read the ingredients. And there's no cellulose in this. You do not want cellulose in your Parmesan cheese, because that's basically, for lack of a better term, sawdust. So I'm going to grab here. So you've got the sausage, you've got the egg, and I have 2/3 of a cup, measuring cup. I'm gonna fill that up, and that will give me 2/3 of a cup. And I'm going to go here. Now, why am I putting Parmesan cheese in the sausage crust for the little girl that is lactose intolerant? Aged Parmesan cheese is very low in lactose. And we have actually used this very recipe for her before, and she can handle this. It doesn't set off any of her allergies. Hi, Jackie. And so then I get to use my next most favoriteest tool ever. It's this little choppy thing, but I'm just going to mix in all of this stuff, chop up the sausage a little bit. And you can use an Italian sausage. I actually need to go back out to P&Y Farms and see if they have some sausage made up that's Italian sausage. But this pizza is relatively easy to make. Oops, almost dropped it. And because it's just super simple to make. And like I said, I'm talking, but I could pretty much bang this out a lot faster if I also wasn't talking. So now I'm just mixing this up just a little better. I got all the garlic in there, got the Parmesan cheese, we've got it all incorporated pretty well. My dad used to watch cooking shows, and there was this one chef who was Cajun, and I loved to listen to him because of his accent. I do not remember his name, but we have now prepped the sausage crust. Let me finish cleaning my hands. Now we're going to go over here, and the trick to sausage crust is you have to bake it. So I have dragging my cords all with me. So I have my crust here. I like baking stones. And we're going to put the sausage crust on the baking stone, and then I'm just going to pat it out. Gracie loves this, Zoe loves this, Eliana loves this, and honestly I can actually put some liver in here. As gross as that sounds, but liver is a very nutrient dense food. Great amino acids. When you look at nutrient density of food, liver is actually number one. I'll make a pate. So I'll do a liver and onions and make a pate out of it. But just so you can see this, I already heated my stove up, and then we go right here, and now you can see I've patted the crust out and put it all on the baking stone. Gonna wash my hands again because I tend to get everything grubby. And after I wash my hands, I'm gonna take a moment to set that up again. And we're going to make the white sauce for the pizzas. So I'm going to make a white sauce, I'm going to make a red sauce, And then I'm going to make just a whole bunch of pizzas, and I'm going to do them a couple at a time. I won't make you guys wait through all of that because that's just crazy. But I can show you how quickly you can have one of these things done all in all. So now I'm going to change this around. And then we're going to drop this down to right here. Oops. I think I gooked my one piece here so you can, looks foggy. Is that a little better? There we go. So, you can tell this is not a professional thing. So there's the sausage crust. When you make the sausage crust, it takes about 10 minutes. I've put it on a baking stone, so it's going to take a little longer because the baking stone has to heat up. Now, for the white sauce for Jessica, because the white sauce does not, it doesn't contain the lectins that tomatoes do. So when we use a white sauce, Jessica can eat the pizza, and it's still, this is a pretty heavy, pretty dense recipe. We don't eat it a lot, but for me it doesn't have any simple carbs. It doesn't tend to hit my doesn't tend to jack my insulin up, and insulin, as we all know, is a very pro-inflammatory hormone. So white sauce. Ooh, let's show you something cool, because what they want to do is, in the white sauce we do put a little onion. So I'm going to show you a second little tool that I use, and this is a garlic chopper. So I will cut the end off of the garlic, and I'm going to add some basically diced minced garlic to my white sauce. And that's something that you can figure out through functional medicine and testing, is what are you sensitive to if that's what you're looking for. As far as gluten goes, I mean, honestly, I have yet to actually test somebody that isn't sensitive to gluten. So I'm putting the garlic cloves in there. And you just run that back and forth, and voila, your garlic is chopped. I got that at where Jessica and I went on our first date. How's this for romantic? Our first date was to Jungle Jim's in Cincinnati, and as for a first blind date, she was stuck in the car with me for 2 hours. I'm pretty sure we figured that if we can handle a 2-hour car ride with each other, that we could do about anything. Speaking of which, I was just talking about you.
You are?
Yeah. I was telling everybody here that's watching that our first date was a 2-hour car ride to Jungle Jim's,
Yeah.
where I got this.
Are you sure it had shake in it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I can't drink it.
That's okay. So, 2 tablespoons of butter.
I just came for my kiss.
Aha! Traveling down to Madison.
Yep. Kathy was good. She ate on her diet. Kale salad. I had fish.
You had the fish.
As always.
Yeah, the fish has started to irritate her. They switched from panko to cracker crust.
Yeah, I ate it again, so we'll see again. We're testing out the theory. Love you.
Love you.
Here's a FedEx package. Did you see that?
No, I wondered who popped in. Open that up. So now I'm going to I've got to melt the butter. Guess I can get you where you see me so I'm talking to you. So
Oh, it's our tubes.
I'm to melt the butter. Oh, good.
How's this going to help us? Do we have the boxes?
They're sending us the rest of it,
Yes.
yes. But we can draw the tubes on that patient. Got to redo a.
Okay, I'll be back in a little bit.
See you in a bit. Sometimes things just don't go according to plan when you're doing testing on patients, and we had a lab that didn't, well, I know why. The lymphocytes were too low, and that's what the test is based on the lymphocytes. Carrageenan is not ideal. It's an additive. I'm reading one of the comments. And so carrageenan is one of the additives that they add to a lot of stuff, and it's not really ideal. So I try to stay away from that. And in the stuff that I'm using currently, none of it has carrageenan. If I could figure out a way to, I'm working on a, I just hosed myself. I'm working on a source for heavy cream because, you know, there's heavy whipping cream that is gluten-free that should be great. And they actually add a little polysorbate 80 and diglycerides and carrageenan. And so this one I don't like, but it's the best that I can get. And I'm only using 1/4 of a cup. But as soon as I find a local farmer that can get me my heavy whipping cream without carrageenan in it, yes. So butter is sauteing, the sausage crust is in there, and we're just waiting for a moment while this all heats up and goes and does. I do have an electrician coming in to look at the stove because only half of my burners are working, and that means that I probably either A, wired the socket wrong, which the socket was already wired, so probably got that pigtail wrong. But it does get hot eventually, and all is good. So let's while I'm waiting on that, we're going to get the heavy whipping cream ready. I've got my garlic cloves minced, and so I'm looking for a 1/4 cup. And I know I have one because I'm that nerd. And this is based on a ketogenic diet. And since it's based on a keto diet, it is very heavy in fat, very heavy in protein, but really the only fiber in this recipe, which kind of is disappointing, other than I'm going to add a ton to it because I'm going to add a lot of vegetables to it. The fiber is low, the protein is high, and the fat is high. But like I said, the question with the yeah, I know it has it. The only way I think that we will get that stuff without carrageenan is going to be to find a local farmer and buy heavy whipping cream from them, or actually buy milk. I'm not telling you to do this, but at some of the co-ops, there is a place in Columbus, Indiana, and there's a place in Bloomington, Indiana, where you can go buy milk and cream that is not fit for human consumption. That means that they haven't pasteurized it. So they don't have to add all the junk to it to have it, but it's labeled not fit for human consumption. So if you consume the not fit for human consumption cream and milk and stuff like that, they're not liable. But if people are doing that, you find out about the cows, because if the cows are free range and roaming and stuff like that, they're not going to be infected with a bunch of stuff, and you really typically don't have to worry about that. My eggs are all free range and from family members, and so what's going to happen right now is when I get done with all this, because this is being prepared for dinner, I'm going to make a green smoothie. And as I make the green smoothie, I'm going to drop a raw egg into it, because I know where those chickens live. I know what they do. So I'm not afraid of it. And the eggs haven't been put in the refrigerator, and the eggs haven't been, actually it is now because all of my stuff is in there. But industrial farming and industrial farming methods, however great they were, and they were meant for World War II, so they were meant to have, they were meant to feed an army, literally. And it was all about high production. So those farming methods now have come to the detriment of us, and to get things to last long on shelves, because the animals live in confinement fed areas. And when you do that, they're standing in their own feces, they're standing in muck pits, they have to have huge fans to blow out the ammonia so they don't suffocate. All of that stuff is done so that that's why they have to ultra pasteurize it. That's why they have to give these things antibiotics. That's why all of these things happen to these animals, and as they happen to these animals, well, that goes into us. And you can start, if you do any research and reading, just start to look at, if you want to fatten something up, what's the first thing you do to it? If you're a farmer, what's first? They know it. First thing you do, give it antibiotics, because when you kill off the microbiome, you lose about 10% of your basal metabolic rate. All right, my butter is melted, and now I am going to add in the garlic until fragrant. I'm going to turn this down quite a bit because I was trying to rush. Put that to the side. Open this up. Drop the garlic in. Spin the wheels so it all gets out of there. I'm going to open this up. So I am opening up the garlic dicer, and I am just scooping out all the garlic. And once again, that's been sitting there for a few minutes, and since it's been sitting there for a few minutes, that increases the acin content, allowing it to become more antioxidant, so that it increases its health benefits. I'm supposed to cook this until it's fragrant. The problem with that is at some point in time this year, past year, I have been affected by COVID. The only thing that I know that I've been affected by COVID with is I've lost my sense of smell. I can smell some things, it's starting to come back, but I don't know that I'm going to smell the garlic. Oh, yep, I can. So I'm going to do this until I can really smell that garlic for a few minutes. I'm going to let that get fragrant. Next, I will drop in the heavy cream. And I have a boo-boo. And when you have a boo-boo, you just make do with what you got. That's the great thing about cooking. I am supposed to drop in some cream cheese. So I am going to drop in a little Parmesan into that white sauce. so that we thicken this. And like I said, this is just a basic, oh, it smells good. This is just a basic white sauce. So Jessica can enjoy pizza with us. And there's about 2/3 of a cup of white sauce or of Parmesan. And now I'm just going to basically cook this down. I'm going to let this form a thick sauce so that once I get the thick sauce going, I'm going to put the pizza crust on the pizza stone. Then I'm going to cook it. But once again, getting back to things, I won't do that to Jessica. What are super nutrient dense foods? All of your seasonings. So the more you season stuff, the more nutrient dense it becomes. And so in the sauce, I'm going to add Italian seasonings. I'm going to throw in some oregano, some basil, and some herbes de Provence. And the funny thing about the studies that they're seeing in the microbiome labs and the stuff that they're seeing at all of these companies is herbs balance the microbiome. Herbs feed the good bacteria. That's actually kind of a misnomer. Herbs feed all of them, but if something is out of balance, if something is in the wrong place, the herbs kill off the things that are in the wrong place, and it helps put things back in order. So it's kind of a yin-yang thing. It absolutely causes the body to balance and do really, really good things. I'm going to take a peek at the sausage crust that's going to town, and I'm just now starting to see the fat bubble up, and that's where you want it to be. As the fat bubbles up, you know that you're in a good spot. So I need to have a little haste. Where'd my knife go? You might get to see me slice myself open. When I get in hurries is when I usually do my self-damage. Oh, don't break the crust. So here is the cauliflower crust. I'll make a cauliflower crust next time. So much better for you. A lot more fiber in it. It's just a much better product than buying something from the store. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So very fragrant on the sauce. The cream cheese. Excuse me. The cream cheese would have made this even a little thicker. But like I said, sometimes you just gotta make do with what you got. And food is important, but you can go several days without it. Actually, Jessica has done a 14-day fast on her own, and I have done a 10-day fast unassisted. So now put that in there because I got to do the red sauce next. But here is the cauliflower crust pizza with the heavily herbed sauce, and it's on the pizza. Jessica likes all kinds of goodness, so I have some red bell pepper. And in the back of my mind, I'm doing something that I hate doing, and I'm going to cry because I am not capturing all of this good stuff to put into my garden. The garden would be the place to actually put all your compost so that it helps the garden's biome, basically, and whatnot. So look at this. So there is the sausage crust. You can see the fat around the edge. If you don't like the fat or don't want the fat, you can at that point in time put the you can soak it up, you know, and we don't. We just leave it there for the flavor. So for Jessica's pizza, I am going to dice a little red pepper here, little shards. And you'll notice that I'm using red pepper, I'm using yellow pepper, I've got a red onion. And the reason why I do all the colors is because, as Dr. Mark Hyman says, all the colors matter. Those are where your bioflavonoids are. And we are still discovering all the stuff about bioflavonoids. And it's very, very, very important. That one didn't make it to the pizza. Very important to use all the different colors. Have lots of different vegetables. And as you can tell, I am not vegetarian because I've got a sausage crust pizza. Got all kinds of stuff to put on the pizza. I'm definitely not vegan. You can do very healthy diets being both vegan and vegetarian. Actually, being more vegetarian in my own diet is what has started to make my fats more in line with the way they should look. And the interesting thing about that is a paleo diet, which, as I generally see for women, the paleo diet actually starts to make their lipids look good. Most guys I've noticed that go to a paleo keto diet, we start to respond in a negative sense, and our bodies tend to start to get dyslipidemic, meaning it gets high. Our small LDL particles, both number and size, go off, and it's just not a good thing. Now, I have white, red, yellow. The herbs are green. Jessica likes ham. And I still need to cut up some purple onion. I'm going to dice a piece of ham. Dicing a piece of ham up. I'm going to put a few onion rings on there. Notice I didn't use a white onion, I'm using a purple onion. Get the last outer shell off of there. Now colors that are represented. We have purple, we have red, we have yellow, we have white, we have green. So this is what we talk about having a lot of colors in your diet. Now granted, it's better to be in a soup and a salad without the heavy whipping cream and stuff like that, but we're to the point that we can have those things and it doesn't knock us way off track. Jessica's favorite. We're going to throw some shaved parm on here. Once again, not definitely not a milk-free, lactose-free thing. Oh yeah, I forgot I had these. Only thing I did not find were mushrooms. But that's black olives. And then Jessica also likes goat cheese and fresh mozzarella. So I'm going to cut up some mozzarella here. So got some fresh mozzarella here. And I'm going to put this on here too. And then when I pick this up, I have to be very careful because this has been sitting on the burner. And if I grab that side with my bare hands, adjusting patience and feeling what I'm adjusting, it's going to hurt. Now, that says for the crust, we put it in there. We're at 425. And we're going to go about 15 minutes. Now, back to the sausage crust. Got to do a little cleaning here because I do not have a red sauce. And so to do a red sauce, like I said earlier, we're going to get in there, and I'm actually going to make it from my sister's fresh canned tomatoes. And by the way, if you're in North Vernon on Friday, my sister has an art show down in Vernon at the Perceptions Yoga Studio. Should promise to be a good time. I'll be there. Jessica will be there. Family will be there. It'll just be fun. So, clean pan. Gonna let that start to heat up a little bit. Uh-oh. Drop the pepper. I'm going to pop the top on the tomatoes. Now, I want this to be a sauce. So I'm not going to add a whole lot of stuff. I don't want to add a lot of the juice to the sauce because I want it to be thick. And I am going to use also a tomato paste to help thicken it a little bit. And then I'm also going to season it as much as I can to boot. That there, that there. And this is the same way you do like a spaghetti sauce, because you can actually do the spaghetti sauce, and when you do the spaghetti sauce, you can put the water from the canned tomatoes, you can put the water in and it thins it a little bit. So, you hear that? And like I've said before, you know what? Cooking is a personal experience. So I've got the tomato here, and I just squeeze the tomatoes to kind of pulp them. Jess actually showed me that. But the waters from it, and I'm going to use a lot of tomatoes. Gracie likes tomatoes on her pizza. She likes all of that stuff. Trisha was nice enough to already have the skins removed. But I just make those, oops, got a bad spot here. Come here. You're not invited to the party. So I'm taking a quart of tomatoes, and that's what I am juicing or squeezing to kind of break it up. Then you're going to see me do that again while it's in the sauce, and I'm going to mix that sauce. But I'm using the quart, and it is taking care of more than just one pizza, because I have several pizzas over there, and I just want to go ahead and do them all. And that's one thing you can do with the cauliflower crust. You can take the cauliflower crust and you can make a large batch of cauliflower crusts, and then you can freeze them. And this is, my grandpa Bergmeyer would just drink that. Not me. So now, I'm going to get in here, rinse my hands off again. And I'm just going to reduce this sauce, get that all incorporated. Probably going to let a little bit of the juice even evaporate out. I'm going to turn this up to about a 7. I'm going to let this heat up because I do want to take just a little bit more of the liquid out of it. just to make it a little thicker so it doesn't water down both the cauliflower crusts and the sausage crust. So if you take the sausage crust and you take the oil off of it, and then you put it back in there at a high heat, use the broiler for just a couple of minutes, that'll crisp that crust a little bit for you. And once again, let's throw in some oregano, about a tablespoon, and play with it, you know. Put some in, taste it. Does it taste good? Do you like it? Do you not like it? I'm gonna throw in there some herbes de Provence. It's heating up. I am going to allow this to stand for a minute. And I'm gonna throw a little garlic in there. Everybody in the family loves garlic, so I know I'm safe. There's actually pretty good fiber in garlic. Garlic is an antimicrobial, antibacterial. I've got the tomatoes pushed up in there pretty well, so I will switch back to the wooden paddle. And now that's starting to look like a sauce. Still a little thin to my liking, so I'm gonna evaporate off some of the water. But while I wait, I'm going to cut a piece of cheese. And eat it. Taking about 4 cloves of garlic right now, and I'm going to dice them. I'm not going to put them, yeah, I don't know, guess it doesn't matter. I can run them through a little grater thing, or I can put them through the little chopper. Cut the bottoms off of these. And another hint, the mozzarella left a little juice on my cutting board, and when I put the garlic on the cutting board, that makes the skins a little harder to get off there. But that thing does a fabulous job of taking the skin right off of there. And I like that little tool so much that when we started dating years ago, 3 years ago, I took the when we went to Jungle Gyms, I bought another one. Kept it at Jessica's house. Put the bottom off. Put it in there. So the sauce is bubbling. It's like a witch's brew. Bubbling and boiling and popping up. Hi Val. I am making a sausage crust pizza. And I am also making a cauliflower crust pizza. Tonight, that's what's for dinner. For those of you that do not know Val, Val is not employed by the clinic, but she is one of the local health coaches that I do refer to. So she does a fabulous job of helping people implement our programs. And to be honest, I mean, she's one of those people who wants to know and have integrity, so she goes through those things herself. So at some point in time, if she wants to tell her story, I'll let her tell her story. Now, oh, sorry. I ground up the garlic on the garlic shredder, and I am dropping the garlic in there. Gracie does not like onions. Well, Gracie says she doesn't like onions. The funny thing about that is we planted a garden last week, and we transplanted 2 rows of onions. So, her being the typical 9-year-old, she doesn't like onions. And there's no way to get her to eat onions, and that's just ick, so no. And what happens is, and I'm probably going to make her a little mad, because she would just eat the sausage crust with ham and bacon and all the meats on it, and never touch a vegetable as most children do. I, however, being the responsible parent that I am, will not allow that to happen. So there's going to be garlic in the sauce. I'm going to put some red and yellows and stuff on there, and she's going to have to go through the work of picking them off. She absolutely hates onions, or so she says. Back to the story. That's one thing, having gone through the functional medicine thing, I can drop a story, have a squirrel moment, and come back to the story, and I'm okay. We transplanted the onions, and Gracie loves chives. And so she goes, "Hey, Trevor, I went out to the garden, and I was eating some of the chives, and it was oh so good." And I was like, "Well, I am glad you like those chives." And what ended up happening was she was eating the onions. So, and I informed her, but she still doesn't like onions. So she sees the white part of the onion, she won't eat it. Let's see what you said, Val. Learning so much from my own health. Yes. I not thank you for that moment. Now, the sauce is looking like a very thick sauce. So I'm going to let this just simmer for a couple more minutes. And now the hardest parts of this are actually done. The hardest parts of making the sauce, doing, the cutting up of stuff, making the sausage, mixing the sausage, doing all, that's all done. And so I can bang out pizzas now, two every 15 minutes, because I've got 2 pizza stones. Miss Gracie doesn't like onions. So I will not onion everything up. But like I said, I cannot have her just eating meat all the time at every chance. So I'm going to dice up some red pepper, make it very small. Hopefully I don't put a fingertip in there for her. And if I jokingly say, if you get a chewy bit, it's my fingertip, she won't eat any of it. To be honest with you, I don't know how she'll handle the olives. I know she likes olives. She eats the olives. So, she's gonna get some olives. Alright, I'm going to turn down or off actually the sauce, and now I'm going to, the stone is cooled down. Here's our pizza, our sausage crust pizza, and now we're going to add a little bit of the sauce here to it. And I've added no sugar to this. So there's not a drop of added sugar into this. And since I'm feeding this to family, let's see what it tastes like. You just can't beat real whole ingredients. So here we are. Oh, that was good. I can't wait to make my pizza. So we have red and we have red. We need to start adding some different colors. So now I'm going to add a little black. And because she might be a picky eater, I'm not dicing up the olives so she can't see them or eat them. And that's the same thing about the red pepper. Red pepper is a little smaller, but she can still, if she really goes she can pick it off. A couple olives. We call those volunteer olives. And as I said, there will be no cheese on it for her. I'm not even going to do the mozzarella. She doesn't even eat cheese on her pizza. We had pizza this weekend. We had pizza this weekend from Big Head Pizza, because they have pizza bowls and they have cauliflower crusts also as well. And so this weekend we had cauliflower crust pizza from Big Head Pizza, supporting the community and the people that we know, because they actually brought that in because we asked them to. And it was very nice of them to do that. So here goes a little ham. If you're vegan, vegetarian, sorry, this pizza is not for you. The child loves pepperoni. So we have a no hormone, no antibiotic, uncured pepperoni. And that's kind of the kicker here. Pork, beef, uncured pepperoni, no antibiotics ever. That's the best we can get around here until I can actually have or talk Josh into doing that himself. Technically, this pizza would actually be done and ready as is, because we don't have to melt cheese or anything else like that. So we will put this pizza in. And Jessica's pizza is done. And the cheese is real cheese, so there's good fats in there. That's the real mozzarella, the real parm. This one would be very close to a really good vegetarian pizza, other than you can just leave off the ham. Hello, Katie. Let's see, let's take this, and I am going to do a makeshift cooling stone. Make sure that's clean. most of it, yes. So I have my makeshift cooling rack. And I'm going to allow that to cool. And it's going to drip and make a big old mess all over the, going to make a big old mess all over the stove. That's just the way life is sometimes. So as you can see, there is Jessica's pizza on the cooling stone with the white sauce, with garlic and butter, and I didn't have cream cheese, so I just used a little more of the Parmesan cheese to keep that thick. And like I said, in the beginning, I would have followed everything by the book, and I would have stopped and I would have gotten the cream cheese and I would have come back. And now I've been doing this, and I'm by no means a professional chef, as if. And so when we look at this stuff, you can see that I just made do. And I don't know how it's going to taste yet. That's for dinner tonight. So, hi Lisa. So now you've seen me make the sausage crust pizza basically from scratch, and the cauliflower crust white sauce pizza with the sauce from scratch. The tomato sauce, wow, that handle's kind of warm. The tomato sauce from scratch. So there are no added sugars, really no added hidden ingredients. Kathleen was very astute, saying that the cream, the heavy whipping cream, has carrageenan in it, which I don't like, but sometimes you just got to make do with the best that you can. And so that's where we're at. I'm going to continue cooking. If people have questions, feel free to ask. And I'm just going to continue cooking here, and you're going to see me knock out probably 4, 5, or 6 pizzas. And that's, you know, this is just kind of cooking and prepping, and it's what it takes to really, honestly, be as healthy as I can essentially be. You know, nobody's perfect, not going to be perfect. Unfortunately, never going to be perfect. So back to the next crust. And I definitely could have made it better by making sure I had done the cauliflower. And I will do, heck, I might even do cauliflower next week. Let me throw these away. So here's the cauliflower crust going down. Already have my sauce made up. The cauliflower sauce, once again, does not need, or the cauliflower crust, does not need to be pre-cooked like the sausage crust does. Which I will need to check on the sausage crust here when this one goes in. And I'll probably have to go grab another cooling rack to let these pizzas all kind of cool. And the sausage crust is always better the second day as well. And I'm going to be selfish. Sorry, Casey. Good thing is Casey doesn't know I'm doing this, so I'm making my pizza. I love onions. And this is where you can really just kind of be creative. If you like garlic, slice up garlic and put whole slices of garlic on your pizza. It's just really good for you. And when you roast it, it will take some of the bite out of it. I'm going to throw on some I'm not going as heavy on the ham on mine as I did on Gracie's. Just going to kind of rip this up, put it on here. I like to add just a little flavor with it. But once again, I'm still working on my lipids. And if you're working on your lipids, here's a question. What helps you work on your lipid profile? What is one thing that you can eat that lowers cholesterol and is generally, well, it's oatmeal can have crap in it. So let's say that it's not oatmeal, because everybody kind of goes to oatmeal, but it's not oatmeal. So I will be right back over there to see what you guys answer. What is a food? What can act as a functional food? Something basically that you can eat that will lower lipids. Do 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 do. Wonder if I'm humming that breaks copyright. I have received one YouTube slap, basically, because I was being controversial. Didn't know I was being controversial. Olive oil is a monounsaturated fat, and in some people it can cause an issue. It does help with lipid profile. Let's rephrase it here. Let's say something that is not paleo. So if you're in the paleo keto group, this is a food that you would be told not to eat, and the sterols in this food are absolutely fabulous for lipids and dyslipidemia. Back to the tune. Do 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 do. Boy, if I'm breaking copyright, I'm really doing it right. Going to add a little bit of the mozzarella. Flax seeds. Flax seeds are good to change lipid profiles. They're omega-3s, but they're a seed. So they are considered paleo, and they're considered keto. So, good job. You know your foods well. Try again. And on the third try, if you get it, great. If you don't get it, I'll let you know. I think Twizzlers. I wish Twizzlers. Let's see. Oh, come on, Kathleen. You've done great so far. Throw one more at me. Olive oil, flax. Oh, I forgot my black olives. I'm sitting here staring at Jessica's pizza, and I'm not quite sure it's going to make it through lunch. Beans. I'm just going to lay it out there. Beans. So if you make beans, your pinto beans, garbanzo beans, all of those beans, they are not considered paleo or ketogenic, and so the beans have sterols in them, and I started adding those back into my diet. And when I did that, that was kind of the final thing that really got my lipid profile, actually dropped my lipids. So it dropped my lipids from in the 300s to down into the 2s. And I now try to have beans quite often. That's why you'll see me eating hummus a lot, or I make hummus a lot. And those things are the things that absolutely, those are the things that matter. And that's something that we all have to think about. You know, did this food exist a long time ago? And if it did exist a long time ago, have we somehow changed it, Frankensteined it, done something of that nature to it to make it something that is really no longer good for us? Because we're really good at that. Yes, that's Kathleen, that's correct. So beans while you're low carb, that's why it's just called a low carb. And I will often say that you actually have to have fiber. If you do not have fiber, then you cannot get the microbiome to do what it's supposed to do. If you don't feed the microbiome fiber, then, and it likes polyphenols and it likes bioflavonoids, it likes all these things. If you don't feed it these things, then it's not going to flourish, and it's not going to do the things that you want it to do for you. And that's why it's one of those things that you have to have that. If you read Dr. Terry Walls, she does a fabulous job of explaining it, and she has all of her patients getting at least 80 grams of carbs. I don't typically see the patients that she sees, how those really sick autoimmune wheelchair-bound people. Typically the people that I see have a little better diet. Not that I haven't told people to shoot for 80 to 120 before, but when we're going through this, yeah, I have 40. 40 seems to work very well for people in this area, and that's what I look to do. That's what I look to have them do. So, all right, pizza 1 is done. Pizza 2 actually is done, and I need to find something to put pizza 2 on. Voila. Now I can slide pizza 2 onto this. And then I gotta put these things somewhere. My no finger burning thingy. And remember, the sausage that I'm using is a local sausage. And there's a lot of fat dripping off of this thing. When you don't eat sugars with fat, you don't cause a lot of the problems. And fat, you have to have, especially if you're female. If you're female and you're not eating fat and getting good fats in, then you are not making your hormones. There's pizza 1, pizza 2, or 2 in 1, however you want to look at it. Just giving you a heads up so you can see it. I'm going to take these and put them over here. And so now, on to, I'll make a Casey pizza. We don't have our girls, my girls, sorry. They are our girls, but we don't have them today. And so I don't have to make a Zoe and an Ellie pizza, but I do have to make a Casey and a Gracie pizza. We got Jessica and Gracie knocked out, and now I'm going to throw in a Casey pizza. So, hi Robert or Millie. I don't know which one's which. On there it says Robert Millie. But here's a very easy pizza. Once again, why am I going with the cauliflower crust? I'm going with the cauliflower crust because the cauliflower crust has a little bit of fiber, but more importantly, it's gluten-free. It is not got a lot of GMOs and crap in it. If I'm having troubles, this is why we make things functional foods. Now I can make this with a keto slant, or I can make it with a paleo slant. I can make it a vegetarian. There's all kinds of things I can do with this. And Casey, so that quart of tomatoes with the one little can, the 2.5 ounce can of paste, is working on pizza number 3, and I still have enough sauce to go a couple more pizzas. And the reason Gracie doesn't like onions is because Casey really doesn't like onions. You can watch Casey and he will peel it off, and since that is Big Brother, she will follow his lead. So she peels hers off. She's not to that vastly independent state yet. It's coming, but yet. All right, and Casey, let's throw on some pepperoni. I am going to put a couple of big strips of the the pepper. Actually, he's going to get yellow pepper, but I'm going to make it so if he wants to take it off, it's fairly easy for him to take it off. And you could actually make these pizzas, freeze them. You can make the cauliflower crust from scratch and freeze it. And this is when you're actually making healthy, functional foods. You know, the peppers, the onions, the garlic, all of that stuff has thought behind it for its purpose. Garlic is an antimicrobial. Garlic has lots of things in it, the acin being one of the major things that it has been shown to decrease tumor necrosis factor, IL-6, all of these things that kill us from the inside out. I'll take a moment to tell this story again about there's a company that is using a checkpoint inhibitor along with a ketogenic style of diet so that it can find a cancer cure. And this is a cancer cure for 12 different metabolically similar cancers. And what that does, when they were making this delivery program, because that's how they can actually patent it, it has to be, for them to make money, it has to have something patentable so that they can patent it, make money on it, and it makes all this research that just makes sense. And so the first thing they had to do was learn how to grow cancer. And so the first things that they did was they took good old sugar, glucose, and they put the good old sugar glucose in, basically, let's oversimplify this. They mixed it in the dish with the cancer, and good old-fashioned sugar didn't take off on all 12. For simple numbers, let's say it did 3, so 25%. Once it did those 3, I said, okay, now let's go take good old-fashioned, not forgetting anything in mind, no. Let's take some good old-fashioned fructose. And let's put fructose on the pizza. Let's put fructose on the dish, and let's see how the 12 cancers respond. So they put the fructose on the dish, and I'll admit I was like, rock and roll, that's going to make it just go nuts. And it honestly had just about the same response as the glucose, only hit about 25%. And they're like, man, the body really, it's really kind of hard to grow cancer. They kind of determined that if you get cancer, you have won a very unfortunate lottery. The body keeps this stuff on lockdown very, very well, very, very closely. And so they said, okay, what's next? And they said, let's mix them. And I don't remember when they mixed the glucose and fructose, if it was like a combination thing and they got half of them to take off. But whatever it was, they did not get the response that they sought. And it was still less than optimal, but for ease of everything, let's just say, they got a response of half. And so combining the two basically made half of the cancers take off and grow. So they're like, well, we are really not going to be able to sell this because we can't get it to go. So they brought in a systems engineer and they said, what are we missing? And he looks at it and he says, so you've used glucose, you've used fructose. These were the two hypothesized sugars that feed all cancer and the metabolic growth of cancer, or in the metabolic hypothesis of cancer. He's like, what are we missing? He goes, so the engineer's like, well, what happens? And they said, well, if you take glucose and feed it to the body, that goes through the process, gets to the bloodstream, stimulates insulin. Insulin comes in, starts to shove sugar into the cell. Oversimplification, but it works. And it starts to shove sugar into the cell takes it, puts it into the mitochondria. It starts to go through the Krebs cycle, and out kicks your ATP. ATP is actually what you run on. So once they did that, or once he said that, he goes, so okay, glucose stimulates insulin. And he goes, okay, what happens when you eat fructose? Well, fructose is kind of interesting. Fructose does not stimulate does not stimulate insulin. But what it does is if you think of your insulin production system as you have a fire hydrant and you have a fire hose, and you have two valves here, one at the hydrant and one at the hose. And when you have the one at the hose, if you eat fructose, you've taken the hose valve and opened it all the way up. But there is no insulin. And if you take glucose will open up the fire hydrant and it opens up the hose. So they go, well, but that's a very regulated, monitored system. Fructose takes away the check here. So it's an open, full blast. There you go. And so the engineer says, well, add insulin to the mix and see what happens. So they took the glucose and they took the fructose and they added the insulin and they put it on the thing, and all 12 took off. So when you look at ingredients, if you see corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, if you see dextrose, all this kind of stuff, that's your fructose typically. I say typically dextrose. So let's just say fructose, high fructose corn syrup. You see that on there, you know you're going to turn off your check valve for insulin. Then if you read down the ingredients, if you start to read sucrose, glucose, dextrose, if you start to read any of these ingredients, you are now mixing fructose with glucose, and you are going to, your human body is going to add the insulin. You now have the perfect milieu to grow cancer. And that's why I say that Coke, that sodas, those wonderfully multicolored whatever, they are cancer in a can, because you have fructose and you have glucose and your body adds the insulin, and that's what makes it take off. So what this company has done is they've gone in and they've said, okay, we have an old, and they're already in stage 2 trials. We have an old insulin check valve inhibitor. We can add that to shut the valve off at the hose, and we can use a ketogenic diet to shut the hydrant off. And it's turning out to be very, very effective. So there is hope for this certain 12 cancers that they've looked at. There is hope that within the next few years, you're going to start to see a therapy that comes from this that is used to target cancers. And it is an absolutely, it's fabulous. I mean, modern medicine for taking care of those types of things is wonderful. The biologics that are coming out now, the immunosuppressants, the immunoregulatory types of things, allowing the using medication to augment the body's own types of cancer checks is absolutely astounding. And quite honestly, I can't wait. I really hope this works and it takes off and it helps tons of people. But as far as the number one killer of Americans is heart disease, that's a lifestyle disease. And we do that when I was talking earlier. So if you're eating your fats and you're eating sugar with your fats, you're oxidizing your fats and you're turning them into crap. And if you're eating trans fats, so if you read the words corn oil, soybean oil, and things like that on your ingredients list, those are trans fats, industrial trans fats. They are not natural fats by any means. Don't be fooled by that. They are absolutely doing a lot of damage. Well, now we have Trevor's pizza is done. Jessica's pizza is done, and I'm going to put a wire rack down here. And our pizzas go together, so I can put them together, and they're not going to fight, and they'll be okay. We both like onions. But as I said, Jessica does not do real well with the... Come off of there. Jessica does not do real well with the tomatoes. Which is okay, because I don't really like tomatoes. Now, I'm going to take my little pizza and put it right here, allowing that to cool. And I'm just going to make a pizza that is going to use up a lot of stuff, because I don't like to waste things, and I have always been a member of the Clean Plate Club. Throw that away. Oh my goodness. I just took a bit of the scruz, for lack of a better word. There was a little bit of crust on here, and I just ate that. And it was the toasted Parmesan. Oh, that's so good. So, going through the pizza thing once again. Opening up the cauliflower crust. Throwing it on here. I still have 2 pizzas left. We've made 1, 2, 3, 4 pizzas. I don't know how long this has been going. I don't really care. That's the great thing. Still hot. Not hot enough that it took the fingerprints off. But putting out the last one, going to use the last of this sauce up. And this one's still going to be sauced a little heavy. And so this one is sauced pretty heavy, but I'm going to go through, use up the rest of this yellow pepper. Gonna throw on the rest of the tomatoes. Gonna throw on the rest of the black olives. And don't tell Jess, Gracie, and Casey, but this one just might be my lunch. I will not, however, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be my lunch, I will not use up the rest of the ham, and I will not use up the rest of the pepperoni. I will probably put a little pepperoni on here. I will put this into Cronometer and see what kind of readings it gives me. For those of you not familiar with Cronometer, you can build a recipe, and Cronometer does a very good job of giving you how much fiber's in there, how much carbs, your vitamins, all of those types of things. And so I can put that in, and I'll get a pretty fair reading of what's in this and what kind of nutrition I have. I did want to look at my fiber today. I'll probably make my green shake before I do that, just so I see what kind of fiber I'm already dealing with, and I'll see what the thing does on this. But I'm really not afraid of calories anymore. Now, I'm not some 6'1", super svelte triathlete running on, 12 to 18% body fat. I am 6'1", 230 pounds, running on about 22 to 25% body fat. So but I worry more about my labs than I do about performance. If I was worried about performance, I would still be working on all kinds of, I'd probably be exercising 3 hours in the afternoon. My weekends would be done with a long bike and that kind of stuff. But that behavior, along with other things, I mean, it's just not sustainable. As that one Creole guy would say, want to add the onion. My dad, now I gotta sweep the floor. My dad had told me a long time ago that I would come to appreciate his cooking shows. I would have laughed. And yet here I am making fun of the old guy that said onion. All right. I will use the last of the mozzarella. Good old stringy mozzarella. And I'm just breaking it up, putting it all over the pizza. Gonna allow it to melt. And I will absolutely positively say that this is going to be a good time. And so, we're going back into the oven one last time. And this one is done. Look at that one. And I do not know my run time. Let's see, I am live. So I'm almost 2 hours in. I'm an hour and 40 minutes in. I've made the white sauce from scratch, the red sauce from scratch. I banged out a sausage crust from scratch. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pizzas done. And that's 2 hours of cooking. And honestly, that's 2 meals for Jess. That's 2 meals for Gracie. That's a meal for me. That's a meal. Actually, that pizza over there is probably a meal for an entire family. So it's worth the time. The sausage crust in this whole mix and milieu is probably the worst pizza for me, just because of my blood chemistry. Like I say, should be using the regular thing to pull the pizza off there, not the rag. But there we go. 3 pizzas there. One pizza over there. And 1 pizza in the oven. Thank you all. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, Dr. Miller at Integrated Health of Indiana. If you want me to make something and put the keto / fiber / try to make it as healthy as I can, send me a note and I will try. Have a great day. Thank you for taking this time to look into the health of you and your loved ones. This broadcast does not constitute a doctor-patient relationship. It is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a replacement or substitute for care. If you are having issues, please seek a qualified professional trained in functional medicine. We would be happy to be of assistance with both in-person and virtual consultations. Thank you.